Here at TYT, we've speculated that if Hillary Clinton were to be indicted for her email activities, that could provide an avenue for Bernie Sanders to become the Democratic nominee. Obviously, a party would be insane to put into the general election a candidate who was actually being charged with some sort of illegal activities. But a new poll was released today that indicates that might not actually be the case. It's a Rasmussen poll released yesterday, found 71% of Democratic voters believe that she should keep running even if she's indicted. So not just being investigated like she is now, but actually indicted. This view is shared by only 30% of Republicans and 46% of unaffiliated voters. Overall, 50% of those polled said, we have no standards in America anymore. Now, if she were actually in a cell, it drops down to only 40% think she should still run.
It's kind of incredible because when the email scandal was originally reported, we were very vocal in supporting her because we didn't think that she had done anything wrong. But, recent reports indicate that she absolutely did do something wrong. There was classified information that she was being very irresponsible with. In fact, she showed that she had disdain for the classification process and the measures that she had to take to keep these emails private. And so that lack of responsibility with such sensitive material raises a lot of questions about her. But with that said, I think the reason why such a huge portion of Democrats think that it's okay for her to keep running, even if she got indicted, is because in case after case, we've seen politicians basically do terrible things with zero consequences. So maybe they think, okay, she'll be indicted, but is she really going to be, dealing with the criminal consequences of what she did? Probably not. I'm guessing that's their line of thinking.
It's really incredible to me because if you look at this year on both sides, people are fed up with corruption and establishment. When you add on to that an FBI indictment, whether the story is legit or not, I, like you, kind of thought it was overblown and didn't really put a lot of stock in it. But now that I'm seeing more information about the private server, more information about ignored FOIA requests, the drip that keeps coming out, I mean, you literally have Democrats willing to run someone with record unfavorable ratings under indictment for the FBI who has real trouble igniting young people over a candidate that, separate from our views, is polling incredibly better than she is and is the only candidate with a positive favorable rating.
Yeah.
It tells me both the power of corporate money on the actual lawmaker side as well as the kind of status quo that's still very, very prevalent among Democratic voters.
Yeah, I would have assumed that if you had asked this question of the actual superdelegates, at least 70% would have been, at least would say, whatever, just let her keep running. But the actual voters to not care, I mean, I have to wonder what percentage of Americans don't really know what the word indict means or what indicted means. It might be that they believe that that's just one of the steps along the way, not a particularly significant one. I would have used simpler language in general. My inclination is to say, based on past polling, that Rasmussen leans right.
Conservative, yes.
So it could be that these numbers are a little bit off. But honestly, if you were a Republican or if you were trying to favor Republicans, I'm not sure which direction you'd want to bias these results in. And it seems weird to me that only 30% of Republicans would want her to keep voting. If I found out that Trump was definitely going to be indicted over Trump U, I'd really want him to run because then he'd go down. So maybe this is a good thing on the part of the Republicans, that it shows that some of them actually want some kind of options on both sides that they can consider.
Well, it is interesting that Donald Trump very honestly said that he would, he said he would rather run against Hillary, right? Because Bernie poses more of a threat.
He's said both.
Oh, okay.
He's gone back and
You're
forth.
right.
He says
I
would
both,
trounce
which is why
Bernie.
I paused for a second. But look, I think that this is an example of how irresponsible the DNC is, right? Because they're so caught up in their establishment bubble that they would rather run a candidate who is way more risky than a candidate that essentially doesn't have much to attack him on. There isn't much to attack Bernie Sanders on. I mean, if you're a conservative, you can say, he's a democratic socialist, or you could just drop the democratic part of it and say he's a socialist and fearmonger about that.
Or as Trump says, a communist.
Or a communist, right?
Yes.
Because a lot of idiots don't know the difference between the two, so
Right.
whatever. But he's consistent in his record. He is not facing any criminal investigations. He is polling better against Trump. I mean, if the DNC, again, could get out of its own establishment bubble, it would realize that, hey, we're doing a very risky maneuver here by supporting Hillary because she's an establishment, favorite. And maybe we should pivot away from that and do something that's better for not only the Democrats, but for the American people.
Yeah.
The most important group that is not polled right now is independents and millennials. So 71% of Democrats might be willing to go with Hillary Clinton, indictment or not. But when you have Donald Trump, who, by the way, is going to soften his tone, I know it seems crazy now. When he's on the debate stage, he's not going to be sounding like a lunatic fascist. He's smart enough to know you can't act that way on a general election presidential debate. But when you have Donald Trump calling her crooked Hillary, he's going to go after her Wall Street donations. He's going to go after FBI indictment. The Clinton Foundation, not a lot of coverage of that and some questionable things. Independents, who he has done very well with, even in the Republican primary, and Bernie Sanders, millennial voters who are going to need not just Bernie Sanders to kind of kick them in the ass to, vote for Hillary Clinton, but that's not going to endear them to her. Yeah. So I think, elections do swing oftentimes on independents and young voters. I don't know if she's going to be the marketable candidate for those groups.
It's just scary times. I mean, when you really consider our options, it's not great.
I would say I saw a breakdown of his, the whole idea that he's bringing in a lot of new people who are often called independents, even if they didn't previously identify as independents. And the breakdown seemed to show that in most of the cases, the people he was bringing in tended to vote Republican no matter what. They just didn't tend to engage in the primary. And so his big boost in terms of how many people have come out to support him than have come out to support other Republicans in the past doesn't necessarily mean what it seems like it means. But she does do poorly amongst independents, so that should be scary. Now, we've been talking a bit about the emails, so I want to talk about that portion of the poll as well. 40% of all voters said that they are less likely to vote for Clinton because of the email scandal, although 48% of voters said it would have no impact on their vote. And I will say what I said. I did a final judgment something like 13 or 14 months on this, that I was sick of the whole thing. I was bored by it. It might end up being that having the private server not securing the information, certainly lying about it since, which she has clearly done and some in her campaign have done, could end up being illegal and she could be indicted for it. It's the sorts of crimes that I personally don't care about because I do assume that every single one of them does that sort of thing. But I do think that the Clinton Foundation section of it, which is a portion of this scandal that could come out from the emails being public, is much more interesting and much scarier. And today we saw Bill Clinton was apparently given a six-figure paycheck from one of the vulture capitalist funds that ended up going towards the Clinton Foundation at the time that she's running for the presidency. That's far shadier than whether she has a private server to me. It's also less likely to lead to her being indicted, unfortunately, but it should make people much more suspicious about her and Bill.
And let's not forget, the governor of Virginia, a swing state, is now under investigation because of donations he's gotten. Terry McAuliffe, I don't remember if he's on the board of the Clinton Foundation, but he's very involved with the Clinton Foundation. So it's not just her. There's more kind of drip surrounding her. Yeah. I don't like to push the Fox News propaganda around Hillary Clinton. But to me, if you're looking at independent voters, I get your point that it's not clear if those are general election independents. But if you're looking at independent voters, to me, it's not particularly about the emails. It's about the character behind the emails. Why did you want a private server? Yeah. Why did you say you did everything you can and you wanted to talk to the FBI when it's coming out now that she's tried every which way not to talk to the FBI?
Yeah. So and also as a Democrat. And look, some people might think that this is an unfair comparison, but I actually don't think it is because it involves classified information that, people think puts the country in jeopardy. If you were not supportive of what Edward Snowden did because you feel like the information that he leaked put the country in grave danger, which, by the way, it did not, okay, you can't turn around and say, oh, Hillary being so irresponsible with classified information is not that big of a deal, right? You can't be a hypocrite in that situation.
Exactly, yeah.